Hey, it's Erin from Book Things and Baubles, and today I'm going to show you my process of making a sign from start to finish in Inkscape. So I was recently contacted by one of my subscribers who is just having such a difficult time learning Inkscape, and I totally get it. Inkscape is definitely a hard software to learn, especially if you're wanting to use it with the Glowforge. So she described to me the project that she has in mind that she wants to create, and I told her that I would do a step-by-step tutorial of how I would go about making this sign in Inkscape, and so that is what we are doing today. So the very first thing I like to do is get my page set up in Inkscape. The page is basically the work surface area you have in Inkscape, and you can change this in document properties, which you can find by clicking File, then down at the bottom, Document Properties, and it will bring up this tab over on the right hand side. And this is where you can change the size of your page. So I like to change the size of the page to about the same as the Glowforge. So I do the width to 19 inches and the height to 11 inches. And this is about as big as the bed of the Glowforge. So I know that anything I put on here will fit in the Glowforge. And this is also typically the size of wood pieces that I'm working with. Next, I'm going to use the square tool to draw out a rectangle, roughly the size I want this to be. I'm not quite sure how big I want the sign yet, but this is a good place to start. So as you can see, this rectangle is filled with purple. Basically, to unfill that, you'll go down to the bottom left-hand corner and click that little X. All of those colors along the bottom are fill or outline colors. So shift and click is for the outline, and then just a regular click is for the fill. Next, you can see me up along the top just messing with the size of the box. I also changed the measurements to inches up there because that's what I'm used to working with. And I decided that 15.5 inches long by about 5.5 inches tall would be a good start for this sign. Next, I'm adding in some circles to my rectangle, 2 circles to be precise, and the idea is that these are what you're going to thread some rope or twine through to be able to hang the sign up. So basically click on the circle, and then if you hold down Control as you are dragging out the circle, that will make sure that it stays perfectly round and you don't end up with an oval or something. And then I just drag it into the corner where I want it to be, and then I copy by hitting Control C, and I paste another circle by hitting Control V. I drag that to the other side, get it about where I want it, and next I'm going to align the circles to make sure that they're even. So to pull up the Align and Distribute, you'll go to Objects, and then down to the bottom you'll see Align and Distribute, and that's what will pull up this section on the right. And then once you've selected the things you want aligned, you can choose from a lot of different options how to align them. I just align these circles on the same vertical axis, so I know that they're even. And then I just eyeball about where I want them to be along the sign. And then I decided it might be a good idea to up the weight of the stroke on the circle and the rectangle. And so I'm going to fill and stroke. You can find this under Objects, Fill and Stroke, and it'll open up this. Then I go to Stroke Style, and I just upped it a little bit. And then I click on the circles, and I up those as well, so that they're a little bit easier for you to see, because I know that the screen's a little bit small. Next, I'm going to select all of the shapes I've made so far by just dragging a big box around them, and I'm going to make the circles and the rectangle so they're all one piece. There's a few ways that you can do this, but basically what you'll do is you'll go to Path, and then you will select objects to path, and this turns the circles and the rectangle into a workable path in Inkscape. And then you can either do exclusion, which is what I usually do, or you can hit Control G and just group them all together. That way, when you move one, it doesn't mess up the others. All three of those pieces will just move as one. Now that the basic outline of my sign is done, I'm ready to add some words. So clicking the text tool, I type welcome, and then in a separate text box, I type to, and then in another separate text box, I do Doris and Simba's home. The reason why I tend to like to break these things up is it makes it easier to make a more dynamic sign by having a lot of different fonts, different sizes, and these small details are really what help bring a sign to life and make it a dynamic sign and interesting to look at and visually appealing. So next I'm picking the font that I want, and to open up the text and font box, you'll just go to text and then text and font, and it will pull up this box. And all of the features you see me playing with on the right hand side, I like to always keep those up. So they're just always open for me whenever I need them, because these are the features I tend to use the most. The ones that I haven't quite shown you yet, I'm showing you now, are trace bitmap, which you can find by going to path and then trace bitmap. And then I've also got the layers, which you can find in layers and objects and layers. And that's just for if you ever need to mess with layers, which I don't need to a ton, but I just like to have it open so I don't have to search for it. So I would suggest keeping all of these tabs open for yourself as well. It just makes your life a lot easier if you're not always having to go through and open them up. And these all are definitely the ones I use the most, are the ones that I've shown you so far. So ultimately, I decided to use Cooper Black for the whole sign. I eventually decide. But like I said, you can change things up when you're working with a sign that's going to be made out of wood, which is what I'm working with. You want to choose fonts that are pretty big, that don't have tons of teeny tiny pieces that are easy to break off. I think the chunkier fonts, the better. If you are engraving on a sign instead of cutting out the letters with wood, which is what I'm going to do with this sign, but if you're just engraving, then you can kind of get into using some of the more flowery or flowery fonts and designs. But when you just have things that you're cutting out, you want some very big, very basic kind of shapes that you're working with, just so that things don't break off. And as you can see, now I'm just sizing things up to about the size I want them, using and manually inputting the size that I want them to be, just so that it's perfect. And then I'm able to place it and select the text and then select the box it's in, and then I'm able to center it. And the reason that I'm centering all of this is just to make sure that it fits on the sign in the way that I want it to, even though we're going to be cutting all of these different pieces out separately. And now you can just see me messing with the placement a little bit more, just making sure that everything fits where I want it to. And it was at this point that I decided to add a border to this sign as well, just to make it a little bit more interesting to look at, give it a little bit more dimension to it. So this is the point where I realized that I would probably need to resize. So instead of having it be 15.5 inches by 5.5 inches, in order to make it fit on the 11 by 19 pieces of wood that I have, instead of having 5.5 plus 5.5, which equals 11, I would rather have 5 plus 5 so that I do have a little bit of wiggle room in the Glowforge, because sometimes the Glowforge with its camera can be a little temperamental. And so you might think you have more room than you do if you're working with like the plus or the basic. If you're working with a pro, I don't think it's as big of a problem because you have the pass-through sheet. So you can print any size, anything. But if you're working with the smaller beds of the Glowforge, then you do need to keep in mind the size limitations and make sure that your designs don't go past that. So to create my border, I just made another 15.5 by 5-inch rectangle, and then I made a smaller rectangle to go inside it. So to create the inside part of the frame, I basically just took a 1/2 inch off the size of the regular rectangle. So instead of it being 15.5, I did 15. And then instead of it being 5, I did 4.5. And so that's how I sized that. Then I just aligned and distributed it so that it was all centered. And then I combined the two by selecting both rectangles and doing object exclusion, because that's what I like to do. But again, you could just select them both and then do Control G and just group them together. Then I change the stroke of the frame so that it's red. And again, I do this by clicking on the frame, hitting Shift, and then selecting the color I want from the bottom, which was just red, just so that it's a little easier to see the frame when I put it over top of the Welcome to Doris and Simba's Home sign, which as I place this on there, you can see that I start to realize like, oh, I am going to have to resize some things because now that I have a frame on there, I just have to resize the Doris and Simba's Home a little bit, scale it down a little bit so that it doesn't clip with the frame, so that there's actually room for it. So here you can just see me adjusting the size, coming up with a size I like that doesn't feel like it's too crammed together, but feels like there's plenty of room and that it looks good. And then we still have some room for some extra goodies, which is what we are going to work on finding next. Now that the sign has its basic outline and we've got the text in there, we have our frame, we have all of that good stuff. Now we're just going to find some cute free SVG files to add some more flavor to our sign. So I am going to freesvg.org to find some free SVGs for this sign. I've talked about this and some other websites to find some good free pictures to use in designs in this video that I'll link up in the corner. So basically I am looking for cats. So I just type in cats and am kind of searching through until I find what I like. I might have actually put cat face because I was imagining, having like a cute kitty face. But then I saw that they had these kind of cute like outlines of cats like sitting. And then I saw this paw, which I thought went well with the kind of pet theme. So I click the paw, and then you can download SVG. And then I just go back and I keep looking for some more. And on these websites, it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes you'll be able to find what you're looking for, sometimes you won't. There's always options to buy files on Etsy if you're looking for something that you can't find, or you could even use like Fiverr to pay someone to create it for you if you're still not comfortable enough in Inkscape to do it yourself. But then I saw, these cute kitty outlines, and I thought that that would be perfect, especially for cutting out in the Glowforge. Again, there's not tons of teeny tiny details that could break off that you'll have to work with, but it's just one nice solid image. And then so the person who requested some help making this sign. She said that it was for her grandmother who has this cat that she loves. So I thought it would be kind of cute to do like a granny and then a cat, but I couldn't really find any good like grandma SVG art that would be good for Inkscape and good for the Glowforge. Um, so I kind of gave up on that idea. And then I thought, oh, maybe I could do like a simple house, like a heart in the middle, kind of like this one that I'm pointing out. But then I realized I could totally make that super easily in Inkscape. So I will show you how to make a cute house like that. And now I've imported these SVG files into my design. Basically, you can import those by going File, Import, selecting wherever the file is on your computer, and then it will just upload it in there. So these are specifically vectors, and you can just check that by hovering over the picture on freesvg.org. But basically, that means that I'm able to change the stroke, change the fill, as you can see here. And so by clicking the object, hitting Shift, and then selecting a color, I'm able to create an outline for it. And then I just undo the fill, and basically this is the shape that the Glowforge will cut out. And I'm making it this different kind of turquoisey blue color just so I can, keep all of the different elements separate. So I've got this cute little paw that now I'm just resizing to see where I want it to go on the sign. And next I'm going to do the same thing with the cat. I'm going to select the cat, hit Shift, and then select the color I want for the stroke. And then I'm going to select the X to X out the fill. And now I just have the outline of the cat. And I apologize, it's really kind of hard to see. But I'm trying to just show you everything. But basically what I'm doing is sizing it down and deciding what I want to do with the cat. And I felt like this cat that was sitting up was maybe a little too big. And so now you can't see it on the screen, but I am just going back to freesvg.org and finding like a cat lying down or like a more horizontal cat so that I can fit it in between the welcome and Doris and Simba's home. Kind of that space there is where I'm thinking it will go. So then once I found the SVG I liked, again, I do file import, and now I've got this cute little cat stretching. I just think it's so adorable. And just using the tools up along the top, they've got a flip option. So I just easily flipped and mirrored that so that it would be by the side. I just make it a little smaller, tweak how big I want it to be, where I want it to go, where I envision it going. And then I've got the paw that I'm still kind of tweaking. And this is where your creativity as a designer just really kind of comes into play. I wasn't really feeling just the paw and the cat, just because the paw is so small in comparison to that cute kitty stretching. So I thought that maybe I would be able to fit the other cat somehow. So, and then you can see me just doing the same process again to just get the outline of the cat. And now I'm just kind of messing with the design part, figuring out where I want things to go. I thought maybe I could do the paw smaller, do it in the middle somewhere. And then again, you saw me flip this cat, and I thought, oh, maybe he can fit there. But then I had to keep in mind that I do have the frame to think about as well. So I ended up making the cat smaller, moving him a little closer in, all of that good stuff. But yeah, this is the part where you just get to have fun and kind of design and figure out where you want everything to go on your sign. And here you can see me checking to see how well the frame fits, and I think it fits well. And then I copied and pasted another paw print because I thought I might as well keep it even, right? I have a cat and a paw, and then a paw and a cat. So it all is just kind of looks balanced and nice. The great thing about designing is you can experiment and you can be creative, and even if it takes you some time, like that's okay. It takes everybody time to learn and figure out what works best for them. So there's no shame in struggling to learn Inkscape, but just be kind to yourself. I have definitely made tons and tons and tons of mistakes in Inkscape and with the Glowforge, and that's okay. That's part of the fun. That's how we learn. So next, I am just moving everything up from the base of the sign up to the frame. And especially with the text, this is super important, but you need to make sure that you select your text and then path, object to path, and then object, ungroup. Otherwise, any text that you don't perform this step on, the Glowforge is just going to remove. And I have a whole video about this, so if you're confused with this step, please watch this video where I explain it in a little more detail. But basically, that's what I'm doing now is I'm going through all of the text and making sure to turn it into a path and then to ungroup it. And then I decided that I would just select all of the text and change its color. When I am designing and creating a design, I like to have different colors. Basically, every single color is going to become its own step in the Glowforge. So I usually like to break this up into 3 colors for the 3 basic functions of the Glowforge. So I'll have one color for cutting, another color for engraving, and another color for scoring. If you don't break them up by color like this, then the Glowforge will just assume that you want to do the same function for everything, and a lot of the times that's not the case. Next, I have moved all of my elements that I want cut out up to the frame. So basically, this is just my attempt at conserving all the wood I can using every piece of the wood. So the bottom half of the sign is going to be the base. The top half is going to be all of the things we cut out and then glue onto the sign. And then over on the left-hand side, you can see I made a square. This is the beginnings of the house I was telling you about earlier. So then I'm clicking on the star. You can select the number of corners. I want to do a triangle, so I'm going to do 3 corners. And then I just draw out my triangle and drag it onto the house. And that point is way too high up, so then I just drag the point down so it looks more like a roof. And then I drag and select all of those shapes, and then I change the color because, I just like to change the color for all of the different things I've got going on. I select it again, and then I do path, object to path, and then I'm going to do path, combine. I think that's what it's called, path. No, it's union. So path and then union. So basically, that's just going to combine these 2 shapes into one shape. And there you have it. We have a cute little house. It was super easy and so simple. And then I thought it would be fun to just add in a cute little heart. So I just went to File, Import, and I have just tons and tons of shapes and things I've accrued over the last year using my Glowforge. And so I have this cute little heart shape that I always use for projects like this. So I just went and found that, and here you can see I added it in. I needed to ungroup this, so to ungroup anything, it's just Control-Shift-G. And then I was able to delete that weird little text at the bottom and just have the heart left. And so the heart, I'm going to treat it just like, the cats from earlier. I am going to assign a stroke to it. I'm going to just keep it the same green as I did the house so that the house is all one color. And then I'm going to erase the fill. And then you'll see I go in to the stroke style, and I just make sure that that matches so it's not all big like that. And then I just select everything, the house and the heart. After getting the heart centered where I want it, I just select it all and I group it together. So that's Control G to group things. And now I've got a little house, and it was just super easy to make. So, like I was saying earlier, if you can't find what you're looking for, ask yourself if you could make it just using the simple shapes in the Glowforge. A lot of the things around us are just shapes. That's one of the first basics that you learn in art is seeing the shapes of things and the basic shapes of um, all of the objects around us. So don't be afraid to make your own um, files and SVGs. So I wasn't sure if I was going to use the house in the sign or not. But I figured there's no harm in cutting it out at least. And then you could have some options of mixing and matching and what you want to do and where you want to put things. So I kind of put the house in there. I still think it might be a little too big. If I went back, I might make it even a little smaller. But then there's just room for that other cat to just fit right in there. So I just turn him on his side and he just slides in there. And again, everything on the top half of the design is just going to be cut out with the Glowforge. So it doesn't really matter if it's not where you want it to be. You'll just end up gluing it onto the base of the sign, which is the bottom where the two holes are. And that is the sign. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful, especially for Monica, who is the one who reached out to me. I know that the Inkscape can be really hard to learn, and I hope that this was a helpful tutorial seeing my thought process as I'm creating a sign and what I do in Inkscape to create these signs. So I just hope that that's helpful for you. As I was making this video, I thought that maybe this might be something I could offer my subscribers if this is something you're interested in, is if you have something that you want to design but you're not quite sure how to do it in Inkscape, let me know and I could make it for you. I could show you how I would go about making it, and then maybe that could give you some ideas of how to do it yourself or other projects that you could do. So if you're interested in something like that, go ahead and leave a comment down below, and I will do my best to help you with these projects and designs that you have in mind. And maybe it could even be a service that I offer on my shop. If you want me to create custom designs for you, I think that would be fun. I love designing and I love the Glowforge and I love you guys. So it seems like it's that might be a good fit as well. So yeah, I am not going to be uploading videos next week or the week after that. I just need some R&R. As you can probably tell, I'm still recovering from this heinous cold that has held me in its grasp for several weeks now. So I just need a couple weeks off to rest and relax and get better. And then I will come back to you guys probably mid-June, the end of June, with some more Glowforge videos. So if you like the Glowforge and are interested in the Glowforge and Inkscape and designing, anything like that, please subscribe. My goal is by the end of the year to hit 500 subscribers, and so I would really appreciate it if you find these videos helpful, if you would subscribe. And if you are thinking about purchasing a Glowforge, I would love it if you considered using my referral link down below. This gives you money off of the Glowforge, and it also gives me credits, which really help me and my small business. So if that's something you're interested in, the link is down below. But yeah, I hope that you guys are all doing well, having a good summer, good spring. I hope that things are going well for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Bye.